Welcome back to TK Tennis. And today we have a really interesting predictions video and preview video for the women's semifinals and the men's semifinals at the US Open. So let's jump into it because I think you're going to like this one, and let's talk about the matchups. But first, going back to the quarterfinal men's predictions that I made a couple days ago. So I went 3 out of 4 on the men's finals, but there's really not much to write home about, right? We pretty much knew that Sinner, Alcaraz were certainly going to win, and that Djokovic being 10-0 against Fritz had the huge advantage, and it was unlikely that Fritz was going to be able to beat Novak. Even though it was a great match, Fritz played really well. You could argue that just in the big points, if he played the big points better, he should have won that match, and he certainly could have. But with the experience that Novak has of all the Grand Slam wins, again, that was pretty predictable. The only one that wasn't predictable was Felix Auger-Aliassime versus de Minaur. That was hard to predict. I made a penciled-in prediction that de Minaur was going to win that match, and it was just really a pick'em, and I was wrong about that. And what was strange about that match was that how poorly both of these guys played. And the one that played even more poorly was de Minaur, and that's why he lost. His first serve percentage was 39%. I got the feeling watching that match that both of these guys may have been thinking that this is probably my only chance to ever make it to a Grand Slam semifinals, and that opportunity was too big for both of them. And they just played really poorly. That was really a hard match to watch. I didn't enjoy watching it. De Minaur obviously played worse than Felix did. But again, so I got that one wrong. So 3 out of 4 in the quarterfinals. Not bad. I will take it. So let's move on to the women's semifinals projections. In the first match, we have Sabalenka versus Pegula. Sabalenka's record, I believe, is 9-2 or 7-2 versus Pegula. And this one, should go pretty predictable that Sabalenka is the clear favorite here. She has more power, even though Pegula's been playing great and has a chance. The way Pegula hits the ball, she's a smooth hitter of the ball, hits the ball really deep. It's a tough ball to handle. But Sabalenka, if she's playing well, will clearly win this match. This match is clearly decided by Sabalenka. And the problem with that is Sabalenka hasn't been having a great year in a lot of these big matches. So there's a real opportunity for Pegula to win this match. But being a semifinals and with all the experience that Sabalenka has, even if she's not playing her best, she'll likely win this match. But I would say Pegula has a chance. But the prediction is clearly going to be with Sabalenka because of her power and her ability to just, pretty much blow Pegula off the court at certain times during the match. That's why you have to pick Sabalenka, of course. Now let's move on to Osaka versus Anisimova. And Anisimova had a really big win, of course, against Iga. For those people who, jided me, is that even a word? Or thought I was crazy for predicting Anisimova to beat Iga at Wimbledon. I have a video about that because clearly Anisimova has the capability to beat Iga, and she showed it yesterday when she beat Iga. So that's why I made that prediction at Wimbledon, even though I was wrong. And I'm going to have a separate video about that because I find it to be really interesting and maybe not what you think about why Anisimova was able to beat Iga. And if that event happens again where Anisimova is in a finals, maybe here in the US Open, what will happen next? And I'll talk about that in another video. But when it comes to Osaka and Anisimova, this one's really hard to predict. Osaka's playing really well. She's clearly in shape. She's been putting in the work. She has the experience, and she seems really confident, or at least she did in the last couple of matches. She's been playing very confidently. But the problem with Osaka is things can change from day to day. She's happy today or yesterday, playing great and confident, but that doesn't transpire maybe into tomorrow. Even halfway through the match, she could change her, her disposition and how she's playing. And then when it comes to Anisimova, she just had a really big win, And the last time she had a really big win against Sabalenka at the Wimbledon semifinals, she crumbled in the finals. So this is mostly a matchup about two people that have a lot of power and have great games, but are very unpredictable mentally in terms of their competitive spirit on a day-to-day basis, and they have challenges with those aspects. Now, when it comes to pure ball striking ability, Anisimova has the potential in this match to just overpower and take the racket out of Osaka's hands. And even while Osaka has a similar game style, Anisimova hits the ball a little bit bigger and a little bit smoother. But Osaka is moving a little bit better than Anisimova. But being it's on hard court, it's not that big of a deal because Anisimova is moving really well for her capability. And again, this is just really hard to predict. I'm going to go with Osaka. I'm going to pencil it in for Osaka just because her movement's a little bit better. She's playing with a lot of confidence and she has the experience. If it was just about their capabilities, if both play at their highest levels, Anisimova will probably win this match. I think she's the better ball striker, the bigger ball striker, and women's tennis is mostly about power over movement. So even though Osaka is moving better than Anisimova, if she's playing her best, she has the advantage. So if both players are playing really, really well, I think you're going to see Anisimova with an opportunity to win this match. The point will be, will she be able to close it out if she gives herself that opportunity? And that's something we just don't know yet because she hasn't been in that type of situation. So with that said, I'm going to go with Osaka because I think Osaka will be able to handle the moment better. But again, I'm not confident in this at all. I'm going to pencil it in because at the end of the day, it comes down to who's going to show up mentally and be able to compete under the biggest high pressure moments. And if that comes to pass, I think it'll be Osaka, but maybe not. So take it for what you will. That's my thoughts on that match. Okay, now let's move on to the men's semifinals. And the first one we're going to cover is going to be Sinner versus Auger-Aliassime, or FAA. Now this one is really straightforward, right? And it is. It really is. Felix has been playing really good tennis, except in the last match, and he's earned his way into the semifinals. But the fact of the matter is, Felix is not elite when it comes to men's professional tennis in any category. He is excellent. So I usually go by average for the top 50. If you're averaging something based on top 50 play, which is certainly not average, it's still exceptional. But when you compare it to other top 50 players, so if you have a forehand, is it average compared to other top 50 players? Is it excellent or is it elite? And when it comes to Felix's serve, his forehand, his backhand, his volleys, many of these things are either average or excellent, but there's nothing that's elite. And when you compare that to, of course, Sinner's abilities, Sinner has almost in every category except for his volleys and his drop shots. He's elite. And it's really that straightforward, right? So there's almost no chance, barring injury or sickness, that you can find a way that Felix could beat Sinner. It's just not going to happen. It's entirely on Sinner's racket. He's elite in almost every category. He has the experience. He has all the advantages. Felix knows it. Everybody knows it. So Sinner, sharpie it in as the winner against Felix Auger-Aliassime in the semifinals. All right, now let's move on to the most compelling matchup in the US Open semifinals on both the men's and women's side, and the one I have the most to talk about, and I think people will find the most interesting. And that is, of course, the matchup between Novak and Alcaraz. Now, everyone has Alcaraz as the clear favorite here, and I wonder if that is a huge mistake, and I think it very well may be. So let's talk about Alcaraz has been playing fantastic, as well as Sinner. This looks like a clear matchup for the finals between Alcaraz and Sinner, but I would suggest not so fast. As well as everyone thinking for some reason that these guys have changed so much in the past 6 months or a year, that Alcaraz is playing that much better than he has been. And maybe he has been more consistent in playing better. And other people are assuming just because Novak is now 6 months older than he was at the Australian Open the last time they met, is that his game has declined. But it's not about any of that. It's more about the matchups. This game is all about matchups. And if both players are playing well, and they are, and who gives the other player more challenges. And here's what people are missing out on. In the last 7 matches that these guys have played, Novak has won 5 of them. So he's 5-2 against Alcaraz over the past 3 years against Alcaraz. And Alcaraz's 2 wins against Novak have both come at Wimbledon on grass. The 5 other wins by Novak have come on hard court and clay court. You have to go all the way back to 2022, the 8th match ago between these two players, where Alcaraz beat Novak on clay in 2022. That's the only time that Alcaraz has beaten Novak outside of a grass court. And that also was a 3-set match where Alcaraz had to win 2 tiebreakers. So there's something that's not being spoken about because Alcaraz is playing so well, is that this matchup is not favorable to Alcaraz, is even as well as he's been playing. And it's because of 2 specific reasons. There are 2 things that Novak does that gives Alcaraz huge challenges, more so, and it gives Sinner the same challenges, but it doesn't affect Sinner as the same way as it does against Alcaraz. And the first one is Novak's serve, and it's specifically the serve out wide on the deuce side and the serve down the middle on the ad side. Novak has this sliding first serve that is penetrating first serve. It's not the biggest first serve in the world, but it's very well placed, and it gives Alcaraz fits and allows Novak to hold serve more often than he should, because it really challenges Alcaraz to get the ball back in play. And even when he does get it back in play, he doesn't get it back in play often enough. Or when he does get him back in play, Novak is able to do a +1 and put Alcaraz on the defense. And on hard courts and on clay, Alcaraz has had no answer for this on a consistent basis. It just gives him fits. So it makes it easier for Novak to hold serve and to get into a lot of tiebreakers. And these 2 guys have played in a lot of tiebreakers. So the second thing is their backhands to backhand. Now, the cross-court backhand to backhand play, there's actually an advantage here for Novak. If you watch their previous matches, Novak really goes after the backhand in that particular sequence. And there's a reason for it. Because if there's any one shot that Alcaraz is not elite in, it's his positioning, or not his positioning, it's his setup backhand. And I'm not talking about his sliding backhand on the run, which is incredible, but so is Novak's. But when it's a setup backhand and they're both set up and they're going cross court to cross court, this is an excellent shot for Alcaraz, I should say, but it's not elite. And Novak's ball is really interesting, and I've said this in other videos, because the way Novak strikes the ball in his stroke mechanics and his swing path, in conjunction with his racket weight, he doesn't have super fast swing speeds. And the interesting thing is when you have a really fast, high swing speeds, like Sinner, like Alcaraz, like Fritz, it's actually easier to predict where that person is going to hit the ball. People with slower swing speeds who can start their swing a little bit later and are a little bit more deliberate, and they have shorter backswings and drive the ball like Novak does, it's harder to pick up. And Alcaraz has to respect that. So Alcaraz doesn't see the ball as soon where it's likely to go when he's playing against Novak. And all of Novak's shots on his forehands and backhands are really deep and penetrating. They don't have that extra high RPM like Fritz has, like Sinner has, like Alcaraz has, that sometimes the ball lands short. Most of Novak's shots go deeper than most other players, and that neutralizes Alcaraz's backhand, and he has trouble forcing or taking the game to Novak when it comes to backhand exchanges. So when it comes to this exchange, Novak has the advantage more often than not. He just struggles, meaning Alcaraz, hitting that particular ball that Novak is hitting to him, because it's not coming at him with exceptional pace like it does with Sinner. And his setup backhand, meaning Alcaraz, he's unable, or it's more difficult for him to generate winner type pace on a consistent basis off a ball that's considered, let's say, medium pace, 75 miles an hour, deep to the backhand. He doesn't have enough pace, meaning Novak's shot, where Alcaraz can hit winners on a consistent basis. He would have to force the issue to do so, and it's just not natural. Now, on the other hand, when Sinner is playing Alcaraz, he's hitting the ball a little bit faster, 5 to 10 miles an hour faster on average, and Alcaraz is able to use that pace more often against Sinner than he is against Novak. So in that particular matchup, it's challenging for Alcaraz against Novak, and that's another advantage for Novak. So this is played out now in 7 matches where Novak has the advantage, not necessarily advantage on the serve, but that serve gives him problems, gives Alcaraz problems, and then this backhand to backhand exchange is an issue for Alcaraz. Now, Sinner has the same type of thing or problem, but it's not as big of a problem when he plays Novak. On the serve, Novak has the same serve against Sinner as he does Alcaraz, but Sinner has more length. His arms are longer, he's taller, so that out wide serve, Sinner is able to handle it a little bit better than Alcaraz is. And when it comes to backhand exchanges, again, it doesn't affect Sinner the same way it does Alcaraz, because Sinner is able to generate pace off of Djokovic's ball easier than Alcaraz is. Sinner is able to crush on the backhand side a slower ball easier than Alcaraz does on that same shot. So while Novak can try the same strategy against Sinner as he does Alcaraz, it's just not as effective. And it's the main advantage that Novak has against Alcaraz in these scenarios. So everybody thinks that Alcaraz has the advantage in this match and should be the favorite. And I don't think he's the favorite. At the best, I think this is a pick'em. I think they're equally matched because Alcaraz is playing amazing. But Novak, on the other hand, has the experience and has the confidence and the head-to-head record against Alcaraz. So I think this match really comes down to physical issues for Novak. If Novak doesn't have any physical issues and is playing well and is able to get into 5 sets or 4 sets, and he's playing well and he's having no physical issues, I think the advantage remains with Novak to win this match. But it is very likely or possible that Novak could struggle physically, especially if he gets to a 5th set. And Alcaraz would maybe not suffer as much physically as Novak would. So this is a really tough match to predict, but I am going to go with history, and I'm going to go for the upset, where I think Novak's strategy and the way they match up with one another, history, if you want to know the future, you just have to look to history. That's not always the case, but it is usually the case. And knowing that Alcaraz has not beaten Novak anywhere other than on grass over the past 3 or 4 years, I just see it as the odds are that Novak is actually probably a little bit of the favorite here. So I'm going to pick Novak reluctantly to win this match over Alcaraz. So there you have it. The first probably aggressive prediction that I've made in this US Open. I hope that actually Alcaraz wins this match. I would prefer Alcaraz to win this match because I love seeing the Sinner Alcaraz matchups. Novak wants this just as badly. Maybe the send-off for Novak, who knows. That's my predictions. Thanks for watching this video. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next days.